Samsung's next big flagship, the Galaxy S26, is shaping up to be an absolute powerhouse. Recent leaks suggest that Samsung might be abandoning its original plan of using its in-house Exynos 2600 chip for the S26 lineup, at least for now. Instead, we've just seen the Galaxy S26 Edge pop up on Geekbench running the brand new Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 2, and the benchmark results are turning heads. The scores are seriously impressive. On single-core performance, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 2 hits 3,393 points, while the multi-core score reaches a whopping 11,515. To put that into perspective, the current Snapdragon 8 Elite chip inside the Galaxy S25 Ultra scored 2,869 for single-core and 9,495 for multi-core. Even the slightly lower specced S25 models scored just a touch less than the Ultra, so these numbers for the S26 represent a solid jump forward. In fact, if we compare it to Apple's iPhone 16 Pro running the A18 Pro chip, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 2 actually beats Apple's flagship in multi-core performance by a huge margin. The iPhone 16 Pro scored 3,449 in single-core, which is just a hair higher than the S26's Snapdragon, but its multi-core result was only 8,573, far behind Samsung's upcoming beast. If Apple sticks to its usual release schedule, the base iPhone 18 might not even get a stronger chip before going head-to-head with the Galaxy S26. That means Samsung could hold a serious advantage in raw processing power. Now, here's where things get interesting. Samsung has been working for years to perfect its own Exynos chips. The Exynos 2600 was supposed to be their big comeback, a 2nm processor made entirely by Samsung Foundry, but production yield issues have thrown a wrench in the plan. This isn't the first time either. The same type of manufacturing problems kept the 3nm Exynos 2500 out of the Galaxy S25 series, pushing it instead into devices like the Galaxy Z Flip 7. So right now, Samsung's safest bet for delivering top-tier performance in the S26 lineup seems to be sticking with Qualcomm's Snapdragon chips, at least in major global markets. And based on these Geekbench numbers, that's not necessarily a bad thing for consumers. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 2 is not only closing the gap with Apple's single-core speeds, but it's also blowing past them in multi-core workloads, which is where most demanding apps and multitasking benefit. That said, we can't completely rule out the possibility of Samsung returning to its region-specific chipset strategy. This would mean Snapdragon models in some countries and Exynos models in others, something we've seen in the past. If that happens, we could still see an Exynos-powered Galaxy S26 in certain regions next year, but given the ongoing yield problems with the 2nm manufacturing process, it's hard to say whether Samsung will be ready to pull that off on a large scale. From a performance perspective, though, the leaked S26 Edge scores are enough to get tech fans excited. This isn't just a minor upgrade, it's a respectable leap from the already impressive S25 series. The jump from 2,869 to 3,393 in single-core means snappier everyday responsiveness, while the climb from 9,495 to 11,515 in multi-core will make a noticeable difference in demanding tasks like video editing, gaming, and heavy multitasking. It's also worth noting that this kind of performance improvement could help the Galaxy S26 stay relevant longer. Phones with higher multi-core scores can better handle the more demanding apps and software updates that come over the next few years, giving buyers more longevity from their purchase. And with smartphone prices climbing every year, future-proofing is becoming a bigger factor for many consumers. Of course, benchmarks aren't the whole story. Real-world performance depends on a lot of factors: thermal management, software, optimization, and battery efficiency, to name a few. But these early Geekbench results give us a strong indication that the Galaxy S26 will be one of the most powerful smartphones on the market when it launches. If Samsung pairs this raw power with its usual display quality, camera improvements, and One UI refinements, the S26 could be a very compelling upgrade, even for people who already own an S25. And if you're coming from an older device, the jump in performance is going to feel huge. The big question now is whether Samsung will manage to get the Exynos 2600 ready for any version of the S26 lineup. If they do, it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up against Qualcomm's latest but if not, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 2 looks more than capable of carrying the S26 to the top of the performance charts. In short, the leak suggests Samsung has made a smart decision for now, prioritizing stability, performance, and proven chip technology over rushing an unfinished in-house processor to market. If you've been waiting to see whether the Galaxy S26 would deliver a meaningful performance boost, these numbers should put your mind at ease. The S26 isn't just shaping up to be good. It's shaping up to be one of the fastest, most capable Android phones we've ever seen.